there's one category recently that we feel like has been making waves. Which is
I get it. It's very funny,
light
Victoria.
All right, we are back.
Welcome back to the Chemist Confessions podcast. I'm Gloria.
I'm Victoria.
And this is a human conversations on all the skincare science we talk about.
This is episode 21, and today what are we talking about, Gloria?
This is a Decode episode, a very special one. We kind of went in circles a little bit, but we found a product, a device in particular on the market. We're like, you know what? We've done a lot of decodes. It's time for us to kind of just walk through a really difficult one with everyone to work that muscle.
Yeah, for sure. But first, how about a brand update? Starting with our Skincare Decoded book, which last time you guys might have heard us talk about our rant of a counterfeit book that was out there. But we're actually entering the next phase of Skincare Decoded, which is really exciting, but also I think you guys heard us lamenting about the writer's journey and somehow we've forgotten the pain and we're going back.
I've heard someone, this is a while ago, there's a thing where people say that women forget pain very easily. That's how they convince your mother to have a second and third. I feel like it's very accurate because we are working on a second gen of the book.
Yeah, so the core content of it will generally be the same, but it's definitely time for an update. There's definitely some added content we've been wanting to put in. So yeah, look for, I guess, a kind of Dear Diary update as these podcasts keep going on us adding a couple new chapters in that journey.
Yeah, it won't come out anytime soon because, you know, it's not easy to upgrade perfection. I'm just kidding. But it will take some time for us to put the frills on it. In the meantime, if there's something that you're like, you have to put in the next one,
gosh, yes.
let us know. We might have time to consider it.
You know, everyone laughed at the word perfection because if they read it, they definitely found a couple typos.
The worst about this rewrite is having to reread it.
Oh,
because after the book launch, I have not, after the book launch and the first typo I caught, I was like, I'm never reading this ever again. It's so painful.
And also, you know, I think, you know, the pain of listening to your own voice. Nothing is worse than the pain of rereading the thing you wrote and wanting to just light everything on fire.
So for me, the ones that really got me were some of our jokes. Yeah. And I just remember I'm like, on the third read, it's not as funny as I wanted to be.
We're so yucky. We're ick.
Yeah, eek.
Anyways, so that's one update. The next thing is we are definitely working on a hatchery.
Yes.
That is coming in the next couple of months.
Actually, as I'm recording this podcast, it is August 3rd. By the time this episode comes out, we should be looking at kicking off our first hatchery of the year in a few weeks. Right, Victoria?
Yes, we are. Our formula it's pretty close, and I think that's why we feel pretty good about sharing it, and also because, you know, with our new hatchery sign up, we definitely want our podcast listeners to definitely, if you are based in the States, you want to sample some of these new formulas we're trying, please definitely sign up, head to the website. And we keep calling it the hatchery, but it's called CC Chemist Crew. You're going to be looking for our incubator page. Hatchery is our old school name.
Right.
We're so good at this.
We're so good at renaming.
Yeah. So those are the two main updates. Otherwise, please use our promo code podcastship to get free shipping on your order. This code is stackable with any discounts we may be running at the time. We're not currently running anything right now, but should you be curious. But yeah, so stay tuned. Definitely sign up for our email list to stay on top of all of that. But otherwise, let's get into the news.
In the news, what's going on, Victoria?
It's a slow news cycle.
I feel like that's how it always is during summer. Yes. After early summer, where you get all the whole sunscreen cancer news, it's time for this lull before when fall and then holiday season.
I feel like everybody's just chilling. Yeah, they're just waiting.
Yep,
and they're just like, I'm gonna take as much time as I can before everyone's back to school again. So we're just gonna hang out. But yeah, so slow news cycle. There's not a lot going on, but last time we talked about Sephora's uplifting news and their recycling program.
Yes.
Sephora is in the news again. They have basically announced a music collective called Sephora Sound.
What?
Yes. And this is supposed to spotlight basically 55 emerging diverse musical voices.
Wait, like actual music?
Actual music.
Okay, got
Sephora
it.
sounds.
Okay.
Yes. So this will include an array of engaging and authentic soundtracks that make up the sound of Sephora.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That so the whole point is that it's going to be a diverse group of sounds, a diverse range of artists from all different ethnic backgrounds. You have Kim, Ellie Kim, aka Supernova with a K, Korean American transgender musician, and Nigerian American pop singer and songwriter Precious, so on and so forth. There's a long list. I think that's great, but I just don't really expect Sephora to be the one to take this type of initiative.
I guess maybe they got tired of paying the licensing fees for some of these soundtracks, and they're like, that's it. Let's just create our own collective of music. That's basically what we're about, and use it in all of our content. Kind of like, how TikTok promotes new artists.
I guess so. Interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes. I haven't... So wait, do they find them on Spotify?
Good question. They said that within 1 month of an artist soundtrack being leveraged in a Sephora campaign, Spotify listenership has increased to up to 30,000 listens.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's not insignificant.
Yeah, good for Sephora.
Yeah, so kind of a cool gig that you probably didn't think your beauty retailer would ever venture into. Yeah, so that's one piece of news. Second, this is also another kind of like interesting collab. Microsoft, their Teams app has literally teamed up with Maybelline to create the Maybelline Beauty app, which I guess is a filter for, they're gonna, I think, showcase, I forget how many filters, 12 unique looks that you can choose from to basically make you Teams ready for your meeting. So you don't literally have to.
When I first heard this, I'm like, this is the most uncool news ever. Oh my God. So you can get corporate ready with corporate America on Teams and Maybelline.
Yes. And having a brother that works for Microsoft and seeing how he used Teams, I can guarantee they will not be using this filter. So it's literally turns their camera on.
It's literally filters, but professional.
That's what I assume. I haven't actually seen the looks. We don't use Teams.
Yeah, no. I don't think anyone gets out of corporate America to say, you know what, I miss Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, so if you are using Teams for your work and you happen to check out the filter, let us know how it goes. Does it save you time in the morning?
I think about that. Was it a court case or maybe it was like a news segment where some professor or lawyer, someone like in a more very professional setting came on and then accidentally turned on the cat filter?
Yes, he's a lawyer, an old lawyer.
He's like, turn it off.
And he was like, what was he saying? He's like, Judge, I would like to let you know that I'm not actually a cat.
Yeah, I just pictured that, but less funny.
Yeah. Yes, and then finally, one article I had to share and Gloria is going to love is this article that came across that says 17 best moisturizers for oily skin that will nourish without clogging the pores. And I thought this title was just so wild. How can you guarantee not to clog pores? I don't understand. Anyways.
I think that is something that we would love to say, right?
Yeah.
Anyone would love to say, hey, like this set of ingredients or this formula will 100% not clog anyone's pores, but that's just not how it works. Skin is too diverse for that.
Yeah, and I wanted to share with Gloria the list of products. It spans anything from Kiehl's Ultra Facial Oil-Free Gel Cream to Lanesia's Water Bank.
They get a rebrand, by the way. That's a very different look.
Yes, it is. They did. Dr. Sam's Flawless Moisturizer, Neutrogena's Hydro Boost. You've got Paula's Choice Clear Oil Free. A lot of these say like oil free or oil control.
Oh, Victoria's favorite claim.
Okay. And then you have even like Bioma's moisturizing gel cream. And then I even think they have Drunk Elephants. I saw like the Proteiny polypeptide cream. And just looking at all of these products, it's like they're actually all quite different.
Right.
Some of these are silicone suspension, like basically like silicone gel creams. Yeah. And then some of these are just traditional lotions with like kind of a lower amount of oil. A lot of these, when they say like oil free, they still have a little bit of actual oil. It just doesn't have the oil inky name.
The word oil.
Yeah. So I think that's why I kind of want to talk about it, is just like sometimes I just don't find these guides very helpful. The general theme, if you were to take anything away, is you want a lighter gel cream texture, and that's really it. Like,
which, wow, groundbreaking. Never thought of that before. If you something less heavy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was like, oh, yeah, that's not very helpful.
Yeah, and for those of you who's wondering and on the market for something that won't clog your pores, sadly, it's not a very straightforward decode your inky or find a certain type of product in your England Clear.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if you're very prone to having clogged pores, it's still good to just patch test. Also, your cleansing routine is very important because a lot of times what happens is it's not actually the products you're putting on, it's what you're leaving behind on your face before these products go on.
Yeah. So, I'm sure many of you guys, oily skin veterans, know it takes a family to nurture and, to kind of manage oily skin. So I think while, yes, it is important to find the right moisturizers, just like some of these guides and some of these claims, it's just can only lead to confusion.
Yeah.
And continuing Victoria's constant rant about oil free and oil control, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Oh, actually, I also have a beef with the word oil control. Not that I have dry skin, so it's not like I would really gravitate towards those things. But usually when you see the word matte or oil control, that implies that there's a butt ton of powders in there.
Butt ton.
Yes. An official unit of the skincare chemist world is a butt ton of powders. And it is so drying.
Yeah.
And honestly, the few times I've tried those textures, to me, what really boggles my mind is how that texture develops throughout the day.
Yes.
As it absorbs that powder, it's like kind of nasty.
Exactly. And also because like your skin's, when you're dealing with excess oil, is trying to regulate. And the idea of constantly putting on something that's absorbing all of that to excess, not necessarily the greatest. So it's like, it's kind of sometimes when I think about these like matte formulas, I almost think of them as like makeup rather than actual moisturizers. But anyways, I could go on this for hours. I'm moving on.
All right, that's it for the news. All right, thank you for tuning in about the news.
Yeah, so we're actually gonna get right into the decode now, strictly because this one particular product has a lot of different aspects we could look at, and I think it could be fun for everyone. So probably the most confusing arena that Gloria and I don't talk about a lot.
You'll see us sidestepping and doing a ninja dodge on the topic this whole time.
Let's wait a bit.
Hey, chemist, how do devices work? Woo!
Yeah, it's devices. Yep. So, it's just because the device landscape is wild. You could find one device for $40 and another device in the same arena for $500.
Yeah.
And there's one category recently that we feel like has been making waves, which is
I get it. It's very funny, Victoria. No, oh god, that hurts.
Yeah. So red light therapy. There's like Solo Wave, and there's a lot you can find on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's one that Gloria stumbled upon called Cure, Qure. And we think it's actually a really good example of why it's so confusing and how we would have to almost like become sleuths, like full on Sherlock Holmes to really understand like what's going on.
Yeah. And for those of you who are not familiar with the brand, it's a mask thing. It's one of those very cyborg looking full-on masks. In that category, there's a lot of ones you can choose from. I think we briefly talked about there's one that Dr. Dennis Gross does. I think one of the big brands, like Olay or someone has one. And there was that British brand that sells one for like $2,000 or something like that.
Wild.
I need to fish that one out again. That one was like, wow, no. But there are a lot of options on the market. Yeah. So when Cure popped up, it's getting very competitive, and we decided to take a closer look at it and to see why it's popular. Is it different? Is it better than the other options you might have?
Yeah. So this is us, like, basically we took this approach as if we were going to be consumers and really try to figure out, and we should also say this product original pricing is around $500, and then they're having a $200 discount, so you're around like $329.
Biggest sale of the year.
Yeah,
jump on it.
It's not the cheapest device. And so we're going to basically go through it as if we were going to shop for this product, and then ultimately the goal is for you guys to decide, like, is it worth it? Like, how would you, hopefully that we can paint a very objective picture for you guys to understand, like, this is how we see it. Would you purchase or not? You know? So first things first, strangely enough, the 5-star review.
Yep. And that's usually where I would think most people turn to this first, is to just like glance over quickly at the reviews. They may or may not mean a lot to you depending on the type of shopper you are. But this really caught our eyes because I'm usually someone, if I'm shopping on Amazon, the stars to me is like a yellow light, right? If it's below a certain star number, then I don't consider it. And if it's above, it doesn't make me buy it, but maybe go, okay, I can read about it a little bit more. But what caught our eyes here is the review numbers is already getting confusing.
Yeah, so if you head to their homepage, you'll see 5 stars, and then it just says underneath like plus 20,745 customers feel more comfortable in their own skin. And if you were to just glance it like glazed over, you'd be like, oh, wow.
That's a lot of reviews.
Yeah. But you realize you're like, wait, that's really weird lingo. What happened? And then you actually click into the product page and you find that they have 4.7 stars. That's correct.
So great.
Yeah. Based on 250 reviews.
That's
I found that really
So you're saying you're expecting 20,000 reviews and then you walk in and there's 250.
Yeah. I don't really 250 actual reviews. I'm thinking they maybe mean like 20,000 of these customers have tested it, and this is their. I don't know how they got that metric. We're not really sure.
I still feel like they shorted for them. Yeah, just like you're just falling short of the 20K by a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. So that was kind of odd. The second thing is, of course, BNAs, and we'll have to say that it's a mix. I think I generally have mixed feelings. We'll show you 3 of these. And for our listeners, we'll say these are definitely not professional BNAs. Some of them, it almost seems like different lighting, different background, as well as some might have makeup while others don't. And then there is a couple like side profiles where it's very apparent that it looks like there is some reduction of redness, maybe reduction of the lesion. But these are, not necessarily professional. And I think for Gloria and I, we almost feel like it's like, yes, BNAs. Like, I don't know.
I feel like before after pictures for a long time, it's like, it's a sexy thing to have, right? Because it immediately tells a very compelling story.
Yes.
And what they did here that I find really interesting is they have a core trio of before and after pictures that they highlighted. And what I think is kind of nifty is they have one that's after one treatment, one after 4 weeks, one after 8 weeks.
That's true.
But of 3 different people. So
3 different skin types and what seems like concerns, right?
And ages, right? Yeah. So it feels like they're trying to catch them all a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first picture, you'll see a clear reduction in acne. And then the second one, the 4-week one, you see it's so different. I don't even know what conclusion you can draw because the first one had these, in the initial picture, it almost feels like skin went through some damage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like, at least from what I can see from the picture, to me, it barely looks like acne. It almost looks like wounds, like a post-treatment type of level. So that one, I don't know what the takeaway is because she healed in the 4 weeks. But really, I feel like if skin is wounded, 4 weeks is a reasonable healing time in general. And the last one, the 8-week one, to me is the most bold one because it's very clearly marking for anti-aging, right? Skin looks tighter. It's very clear that her crow's feet are a lot less obvious, and she looks happy. But then between these 2 images, the lighting is so different, and it looks like
she almost looks like she found amazing foundation as well.
Yeah.
So it's like really hard for me to tell.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that it looks like she took a picture with her iPhone at the 8-week point, but then the first picture she couldn't find her iPhone, had to take a picture on her Motorola. So it's just, I think they have that initial shock factor, right? Of like, wow, it works so well.
It does something.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you take a closer look and you're like, oh wait, hold on, I'm a little confused.
Yeah. So they have BNAs, is it? So that's kind of the next realm. And I think for Gloria and I, we're like, okay, let's keep looking. I think is our general feel here. And now with the way, man, I really hate that we said this, is like, BNAs are almost worth more than, actual any sort of clinical testing. It just feels like every brand has BNAs and the BNA quality is like all over the place. So it's kind of like almost like, okay, it has BNAs, let's move on kind of thing. So the next realm is clinical sounding consumer perception results. So if you start looking into their results, you'll see stats like 87% smoother facial wrinkles and fine lines. I'm like, interesting. That's actually like an instrumental stat is what I thought. Then if you actually click into the details and the fine lines, it says in a clinical trial, 8 out of 10 subjects reported a significant reduction in paraorbital wrinkles. So it's actually a consumer perception. I was like, oh, that's not right.
Oh, you had me in the first half.
Wait a second. So, I think I was like, oh man, that's kind of annoying. It's like you did a consumer perception, but the lingo is kind of misleading.
Actually, this is really confusing all around.
Yeah.
Because the second claim that they called out is 91% improved skin tone and enhanced smoothness.
Yeah.
But then in a clinical trial, 10 out of 10 subjects experienced improved skin complexion and collagen density. How does one experience improved collagen density?
And then I got confused because it's 10 out of 10.
No, exactly.
And then it's like 91%. I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah, so is it a clinical and a consumer perception?
So we'll get into that, but yes, they did do both. And that's where I'm like, oh my God, these numbers are so confusing and I wouldn't even know what to take away from it. So it's just the way that it's laid out. It's just like, confusion. So we'll move on. We should also say they have a third stat that says 83% reduction of acne breakouts. And then in a clinical trial, 9 out of 10 subjects said they saw a reduction in skin acne after 2 weeks. So I don't really know. If you were to dive even deeper, this is where I started getting lost because they talk about how they say treatment of the paraorbital region was reported more effective than the nasolabial region. At a 12-week follow-up, 91% of subjects reported improved skin tone and 82% reported enhanced smoothness of skin in the treatment area. This is the additional kind of like asterisk data that they include. So I think it's a consumer perception.
I see.
So, and I don't know where this 10 out of 10, I'm guessing is an added stat maybe.
Or do they just like, they have, so even based on this lingo, I'm not 100% sure how many people were in the study because 10 out of 10 sounds like 10 people took the study.
Yeah.
But then you're not going to get a number like 91% with 10 people. So did they just squash the number and
this is where I'm like, Sherlock Holmes, why is this so crazy?
Squint so hard.
Yep. So that's the kind of data that we're working with. Let me clear the air. We're moving on because there's actually one more piece that they provide, and it's an actual publication.
Which we'll say is very exciting because you don't see that with pretty much any devices out there.
Yes,
home devices.
Exactly. So the last piece, and thankfully they have this, is they actually published a paper on this technology, and it's actually quite in depth. They actually did this back in 2009, so it's been a while.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so they basically ran a clinical. They actually did some in vitro work as well. And in that clinical, it was a 12-week study where they actually looked at anything from wrinkles, surface roughness seems to be the main two aspects of it. And through that, a lot of I think this is where they're pulling their numbers. They actually said 87% experienced a reduction in the Fitzpatrick wrinkling severity score via a blinded clinical assessment.
Okay. So not consumer perception. So like an expert grader.
Yes, correct. And they actually share the frequency of use. I believe they use,
I think it's like 4 times a week.
Yeah. So they used it 4 times a week for 12 weeks. They actually share the wavelength of the LED tech that they use. And ultimately, I think on top of that, they actually they did an expert grading on top of instrumental analysis. So it's actually quite an
pretty intense test.
Yes. And I think the general conclusion is that while they tout like the 87%, the 90% of participants I think they said 90% of participants showed a reduction in the ritid depth and surface roughness. This is all looking at just like the majority of subjects, but not the actual significance of, what am I trying to say? Like the actual improvement score. They don't share that, and they don't say that it was actually significant.
Oh, like a degree of improvement. Yes. And exactly. That makes sense.
So I think that's the one thing to know is that like while a majority of their subjects saw this, the degree is still kind of like it wasn't significant, sadly. And I think that's actually the state of device, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think I want to say that we went through this product in depth, and you might think that we're being very critical of it. We're just trying to what we're trying to do is highlight some of the thought process that you should maybe have and that level of skepticism. And it's not about crapping on this product because this is actually an impressive amount of data for devices right now. For home use devices, this is probably one of the best, the most complete set of data we have seen.
Yeah, definitely. So, in a way, we led you down this rabbit hole and kind of to share, how much like marketing flair goes into like a category like devices, but ultimately to share with you that this is actually the best case scenario that you will ever get for a device. And the fact that they went to this great length, we would say this is really good.
Yeah.
And I think it's not so much about the product, it's more about our expectations of what the product will actually do. No one's going to go down this level of research. We don't expect every consumer to be able to just like sit there and analytically like go through everything and read the papers and everything. I think it's just more like, hopefully we are able to paint you a realistic picture of general marketing and then also know like what we value and don't really value as much.
Yeah. And I will say like, I have this like really mixed feeling about like before after pictures.
Yeah.
Because on the marketing side, it's very powerful, right? Because if you can relate to the skin concern that you see, it's like an instant trigger. You might not even feel the need to read the research to be convinced. But I still think that the important thing to keep in mind is that I think ultimately, especially for newer categories of ingredients and devices, having a clinical means more, right? Because if 1 out of 10 people saw that improvement and they post that picture up, that is really going to throw off your expectations.
Yes.
So that's why we still like to take a more zoomed in look at the claims, which can get so confusing.
Yes,
but, hey.
Exactly. As you can tell as we go through it. So hopefully that gives you a really good example of how to like approach this category and why, at the end of the day, I was thinking about, the conclusion of this whole exercise, right? This is really, like we said, the best case scenario. Just like you said, do we expect to get maybe the results of these BNAs that we saw? Probably not. Do we think it'll do something? Probably yes. And in the realm of, from what we've seen in terms of wrinkle, general skin tone, and surface topography. And the reason why we feel this way and why this price could be justified is because if you look at the competitor landscape, we would say this is the best scenario. Solar Wave, which is another one that is super trendy right now, only provides a consumer perception. And then I looked at Amazon, and that is absolutely the worst, where you'll just find these like very sketch, weird looking before and afters that are definitely Photoshopped.
1,000%.
Sure, this woman, I think they just went in and erased all her wrinkles and gave her a different skin tone.
There has to be a psychology case out there where people, because no one look at this and go, wow, that's really believable, dog. Like, you didn't Photoshop this.
Yeah.
But they still do stuff like this because I guess it must work to some level, right?
Yeah. So, and then I was thinking about, well, okay, red light therapy is also given in office. So would this device stand up to an in-office procedure? I had some existential thoughts I was going to discuss with Gloria. The first thing is that, so I looked into it, and typically they recommend coming back between 4 to 6 times. But the cost of it can be anywhere between like $100 to $300
per visit.
Then I was thinking, I was like, okay, if you're going to spend that much for an in-office procedure, would you actually spend it on red light therapy compared to the other stuff they offer? And so then I started spinning.
That's a good point.
Right. And so I'm like, I could see why, in terms of this realm, red light therapy, an in-off or an at-home device might be more entertaining than actually going to in-office.
I'm sold. I'm convinced. I like that argument because you're right. Because if I'm going off it for something, it better be something more like heavy duty.
Yeah, I'm
right?
like expecting some dress.
Yeah, I'm getting Botox. I'm getting microneedled. I'm going for those like really in-depth lasers that's gonna hurt you, but it's gonna hurt so good after a few weeks.
Yeah.
So I
was thinking about that. I mean, I did look at the difference. They do say that in office, the devices are more powerful. They penetrate. A lot of them are now these like full-on red light therapy beds that you lay in, so it's like full body.
Oh, I red light my butt. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I mean, there is that, but when I think about, I don't know, all the other in-office procedures you could get, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, cost is on par with the other stuff too. It's like not that much more less.
Exactly. So if the device is like 2 treatments max, like, it's not bad.
I also think that I've never tried a full on red light mask before. Partially because like the way it looks and everything else, I just don't believe it'll fit my face very well. Then you look extra ridiculous, and it's not a pleasant experience. But I do kind of love the concept of like, the mask is on. Do not talk to me. This is me time. That's
setting Chris aside.
Yeah. No, literally, this is a good way to be like, and then argument with your husband. Sorry, can't hear you. Mask is on.
Laura's gonna do that while we work in the office together.
Sorry, Victoria. Not
stop
talking
asking
about
me for crap. Yeah. So, anyways, that's I feel like our general feels about this whole realm, and like if we were just to think about it in the most, I don't know, umbrella, general, holistic approach. Yeah. So that's it for Decode That Claim.
Yeah, let us know if this is helpful. Let us know if you are if you're really, well, I can't talk today. Let us know if you tried these red light devices. Let us know how it went for you. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Time for some Q&As.
All right, let's do it. So first question we've gotten a few times is about a new sunscreen that came out. The sunscreen is called Pavise. They just simply asked, what do you think of Pavise's universal mineral sunscreen? And we took a look, and Pavise is not cheap. Holy cow. Pavise is $148 for 30 mils.
Yeah, so we'll be honest. We did not want to spend our own money on this, so we haven't felt the texture.
Yes.
Can't really comment on how it actually applies. But for a sunscreen, they seem to be making all the right claims that you might want to hear.
Well, so mainly it's that their zinc oxide that they use, it's a encapsulated version. And the thing is, well, encapsulation is not new in this. There's a lot of like surface coated technology. There's a lot of nano, all of that. They, basically tout that, it's because of the way it's encapsulated. I think the main takeaway is that it's really universal for all skin tones. And from what we've seen and the way it's applied, that may be true. Other than that, they have other aspects where they talk about like their photo aging defense cocktail and whatnot. They include, we'll include the ingredient list here, but they include things like bisabolol, astaxanthin.
We don't got that.
I think I saw tranexamic acid at the very bottom. They have licorice root extract. So in those aspects, we would say not that interesting.
They have silymarin.
And yes, they have
Mr. Reliable has silymarin too. Just wanted to throw out there. Yeah.
Hi.
Got a bunch of that.
Yeah. So all in all, I think what people want to know, because people are, one of the things they tell is that this is the only skincare product you need to use.
Like a one and done. From that angle, as a dry skin person, I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Also because she sees all the powder in there.
Yeah, so many powders.
Yeah. I think, okay, with objectively not trying it, the price point makes it so hard to want to use this, especially if you're using this every day at the proper sunscreen amount. However, if you are looking for a mineral, this price point does not faze you, and you have been struggling really hard, with the white cast, which is a big problem in this category. I could see a niche for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all we have to say.
I want to add that because Pavise is on this advertising role right now, after we talked about it, my phone very kindly listened in our conversation and started serving me a ton of ads. One of the ads I saw was a lady that tested a Pavise with a UV light camera, kind of like the one that we use in our sunscreen test. And what she's saying, and what Pavise is trying to say without saying on their website because it's not kosher, is it totally lasts all day without reapplication. So you might see ads like that. So this lady applied it, and then she claims maybe...
Oh, no!
Yeah, maybe she's got a point in that people don't enjoy reapplying. But she is saying that, let's test out the Pavise. Let me go out all day. It's been 8 hours. Look. And then she applied a fresh patch on her hand, and then in the camera showed that it's still dark. So, yeah, it held up.
Wait, it showed up dark?
Yeah, it showed up dark.
Even though it's a mineral?
Yeah, so that's a lot of I don't know what's happening in the ad thing. So anyway.
Oh my God, well, I wish I did not know.
Yeah, sorry. I literally just got served this ad late last night and I saw it. I was like, wild. So you won't see that on the official Pavise website because it's not a very appropriate claim.
No.
But you might be served an ad that says these things that you want to hear. Just know that that's not something
You can claim.
you should be able to claim. And yeah, sometimes sunscreen internally they test it and make sure they last over 2 hours, but mostly to make sure that they at least last 2 hours. It's not necessary. It's not tested to last 8 full hours. So to me, that was the part where I'm like, okay, listen here. I get it. 150 is a lot for a sunscreen, and you probably like once people start reapplying and realize it barely lasts them like 2.5 weeks, then they're not gonna want to repurchase. So you want to make sure they last longer, whatever. But just know that if you see that claim, it's not quite right.
Also, as people who use the device to showcase how things apply and maybe wear, we can definitely tell you that that device is not a good way of knowing if your sunscreen is actually working for that entirety, you know, like 2 hours, 8 hours. Like it really just shows that film, but you're not, you know, in terms of the quality of like and how much protection you're getting, like that device itself only actually captures a very specific spectrum of wavelength. So to make that claim is like just not
a little while.
Yeah, it's not here or there. Every device is calibrated slightly different. So that's also a very dangerous claim to make, especially if you're using this and you're like, oh, great, I don't have to reapply at all. Like, no, don't do that, please.
Yeah, so let us know if you have used it and how you feel about it. The same thing applies. The SPF level is measured based on weight of product.
Yes.
So you might be tempted to use just a little bit of it because it's so expensive. But that's part of the issues we have with a really expensive sunscreen is you might not want to apply all that much.
Yeah. So if you've tried Pavise, please let us know what you think. I think the aspect of it being universal is definitely a promising thing, especially for minerals because it is just that painful. But holy cow, that's quite a price point. All right. This was a question we actually got through some of our press friends, and I thought it'd be great to kind of bring up. This question asks, how do you feel about the rising trend on social media of people claiming skincare is a scam?
That's so... Okay.
I love this like black and white, like, yeah.
Well, some skincare are scammy. That is true. We literally just showed you a heavily Photoshopped Amazon claim picture. That is indeed a scam. I want to argue that, well, first of all, depends on your, this sounds really skeezy, but I think there's some truth in how do you define a scam, right? So I think once upon a time I made fun of those sticks you see, those ads that erase your pores.
Yes.
I don't think any consumer is buying it, expecting it to work like that, right?
I hope not.
I would think not. Everyone knows that that's a hoax, right? But a lot of people still buy it. Why? Because if it falls short somewhere in that 30% of your expectation, not good enough. Or the price point is not offensive. It's like, oh, okay, it's $15, worst case scenario, it doesn't work. So I would argue that's like kind of there's willing participants in that, right?
Yes.
Like, is it a good thing? No, but at the same time, like, that's kind of just how it is.
And I think that's also like, it sucks because it's like, is this a weird statement to make? Like, skincare, like you said, the degree of scam also plays into like skincare being fun as well. Yeah. And it's not necessarily it's a scam. It's just like sometimes it's just something you want to do for yourself. It's emotional. It's, I don't know. And I just feel like there is a realm for that kind of skincare that can tend to fall into the scammy territory.
Yeah.
But if you're, let's say, a sheet mask in like plant juice, like how much are you expecting this product to perform for you? Or is it just, this is my me time and for my mental health and emotion, I am doing this, you know? So I don't know. It's like, yeah, I guess you could get very existential about it.
For sure. And I think this is actually one of the reasons why we decode that claim, right? Because ultimately it comes down to expectation, right? Most of the times claims can be a little bit exaggerated, a little bit. They dial up the sexometer on it, and
it's a competitive space.
Yeah,
they get ballsy.
Yeah, they put out before and afters that suggest that they can erase like years of age. And if you buy this product expecting it to perform just like that, you might feel like it's scammy, right? So yeah, so that's why we do it. So everyone goes into it with the right mindset. So you feel less discrepancy between what you're expecting, what you pay for it, and what you get at the end.
Yeah. And I think just to tack on, you know, it's kind of, and this is going off tangent, is like, it's kind of like the whole clean beauty fear mongering. It's like, I want people to know that generally a good brand is trying to do the right thing. And as chemists, we can tell you we're trying to do the right thing and like, you know, creating products with, and I guess creating products with more and more evidence behind it. I feel like Gloria and I do see that from the industry insider perspective of like kind of the ingredient sourcing, some of these, you know, all of this work that's being done behind the scenes. They are trying to provide more and more evidence to justify performance and how things are improving because, and we do see that demand being asked by brands, and that kind of like information, I would say for the most part, is expanding.
Yeah.
So there is that one, I guess, uplifting piece of news I feel like I would want people to know. Yes, and it is amongst a sea of brands that do nothing as well. There are players like that as well. And yeah, I think that's why Gloria and I continue to do this kind of content so that you can be able to sniff out kind of the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than that,
I bet this person was expecting a yes or no response, or a very short, like, we feel good about it, or, oh, no, we don't feel good about it at the end. And we're like getting philosophical.
Like, I don't know what to do with this. We're not putting this in.
Anyway.
Yeah. So it's all about managing expectations. That's the theme of this episode. Otherwise, that is it. We're going to end on that note for this episode. We really hope this exercise was helpful for you guys. Hopefully, if anything, it makes you feel comforted that we too feel confusion, and you might find that you're thinking along the same lines as we are in terms of our thought process and purchasing. And good job, you know? So yeah, otherwise, if you have more questions about claims you come across, where can they find us, Gloria?
You can find us on our very, very nice new website, chemistconfessions.com. You can write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com, DM us on Instagram at chemist.confessions, and we will see you next week.
Woo-hoo. See ya. Thank you.
Bye.